if an incident actually happens, and then trying your very best to make sure nobody, and I've already spoken about it, freezes up and they all get where they need to go. Majority of the time, being first on scene, I end up kind of placing myself as scene commander.
Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of the We Racing podcast. I'm here with Matt as per usual, and this week we are with a very special guest. We are with James Hutchinson this week, and he's going to talk us all through what it's like to work in motorsport and what it's like to work at the top end and in the most dangerous situations, some of the most dangerous roles that some of us would never have experienced or have any idea on how it starts. So guys, let's give a warm welcome to James.
Hi James. How are you?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, very well. How about you guys? Yeah, you doing well?
Yeah, doing great. We really appreciate that you accepted the invitation. So I think we'll have a really cool topics to talk about today.
Oh, let's hope so. Yeah, it's not something that everyone talks about. We tend to be the hidden heroes in the background, our guys. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's it. And we're here to expose you all, expose all the creaks and cracks
not
today.
Too much,
so, but yeah, I mean, the first thing that I wanted to ask, obviously, you referred to yourself, and a lot of people refer to yourself as a rescue chief. For the people that don't know what that is or what that entails, could you just give us a brief overview?
Yeah. So basically, a rescue chief will look after a team of operatives, technicians, as such, whatever you want to call them nowadays. So this team will be trained to look after the extrication, getting people out of crashed vehicles. So we train them up to make sure that they understand all the rhythms and rigmarole that goes with that, with the fires and the precautions and the safety issues on the cars, so that they understand pulling someone from a vehicle and medically forwarding them, with the right braces and equipment and medical facilities, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a job that when you're growing up through school, you hear people saying, I want to be I want to work in that role, I want to be a rescue chief. I mean, how did you land yourself in that position?
Well, it's kind of one of those roles. I mean, the kids love to be policemen, don't they? Firemen, whatever it is. It's kind of one of those roles that runs along the side of a fireman's sort of life, because they go through these similar things. Obviously, they have a shed load of equipment and stuff like that. But for me, background, I'm ex-military. So I've come from an aviation background, dealing with safety, with fuels, with munitions, with helicopters, dispersal areas or ramp areas, whatever you want to call them. So I've dealt with a lot of safety things from within that. And part of it is, obviously, you've got to be able to pull people away from dangerous situations, whether it's your oppo on the ground or the pilot in the back of an aircraft. So that was the starting point. Then coming across here, I basically, in my group of people, got to know how to got into, as a little technician, what I'm training now as such, as a technician, it just grew from there. I started 2011, and I've just done it ever since, basically, with a couple of years out in between. So, yeah, my progression is military background, basically.
Okay. Is it common for people with your background, military background, to hold those positions? Because you obviously are based in Abu Dhabi, so I'm assuming that people who are holding similar positions across the world.
Yes and no. A lot of it is just because a lot of this comes from, it's different situations in different countries. Here, it's a volunteer-based thing. So we do it because we want to do it. Yeah. Basically, in and across Europe, there's a lot of teams are made up and they're employed to do it. So it's a set team all the time that goes out with their vehicles and does that job. Background-wise, they've got a big mix of backgrounds. Yes, there are a couple of people with military background, but we've got people that have been in the police forces or, in safety world, just a simple health and safety executive or something like that understands what's going on and procedures for. People like this are the sort of people that tend to go for the sort of higher role chief rescue operatives as such. Yeah.
So for people who are new to this or outside of this kind of world, to simplify it a little bit, essentially when there are horrible, nasty crashes out on track, specifically for yourself in the Abu Dhabi, you guys are the first on scene, first responders, essentially, and you're going to get there and do what you do. How rigorous is your training?
The training is as rigorous and as speaking to the lowest knowledge possible, basically. It's like when you teach anything, you always speak to the lowest part of it. Yeah. So if there's someone always struggling, you speak at that level. So it starts off at that sort of level. You take your time through the training so that processes, theory, everything comes along in a nice, steady way. Personally, I like to try and keep it mixed between the visual elements and the practical elements as much as possible, because some people like to read more than they do practically orientated. But anyway, once it comes to an end of that, then I start to pick up the pace. So no, there isn't a time limit as such to get these people out. But at the end of it, I like to do things like a competition. We've gotten so far, then I'll create this competition. This team, go. But they do it as fast as possible. Out comes all the mistakes. They all know where they're going wrong. And then we can go over those points again. Yeah, so by building it up to this, gradually gets them to that point where they can do it so fast that you don't have to say anything, hopefully. Yeah, you don't have to say anything, hopefully. But it drums it into them that they have to think quick. And I'm sure that the next bit is more a case of, as the training goes on, is a lot of people have never seen these things happen. So when you've never seen it, there's a very high chance that they may freeze up. Now, whether that freezing up is they just stop there and they just don't know what to do with themselves, or the situation, maybe it's a little bit gruesome for them to deal with because they've never come across that scenario with a person before, a broken leg, or how someone reacts in these situations. So I try where I can to emulate as much as possible in the training someone, and I normally get in the cars myself, to create that image. Yeah, if I need to cry out, I'll cry out, but I tend to be dead weight and things like that to really make these things hard for them to get me out. But getting them past those freeze points, and getting that focus working, I have to try and think of other perspectives to get them past it. It's like our current situation here, for example. Yeah, it's a case of my understanding is much broader, and I have got a ton of trust in what's going on. But someone else will come to me and say, "How are you dealing with it?" And I'll give them the perspective. It's much safer than doing this, and then they start to, "Oh yeah, I realize now." Yeah, you know what I mean? It's you put it across in a way that they'll see it. So you can say something's gruesome, but there's another way of doing it that isn't quite so gruesome, that has a similar effect and a similar pairing to it. But it's a hard job for them sometimes. It's a hard job, but from our point of view, we're all volunteers. Start of the conversation obviously was, yes, there are some paid units out there that do it as specialists. Strictly, they have the same teams all the time. My team changes a lot, so I have to train I've got about 50 people in total, but I never have the same team twice. So, given the transient nature of the UAE, that is, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, the training. Just before I come back on that, I mean, in regards to your own personal training, how would you say it was different, or would you say it's quite the same as now, or have you taken sort of new bits and added it on? How do you sort of see that?
The way I deal with the training, I tend to get a bit old-fashioned with myself. Now, if I take myself back to military as such, everything is push, 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 push. Yeah. I get to that stage almost with these guys here. So they go through it, and then slowly I get stricter and stricter and stricter with it. And I will tell them, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to give you a medal just for coming. I get quite old-fashioned with it. So I do start to push on them, and my military manner tends to come out in that sense. Yeah. It seems to work. Yeah, I take it steady. I break things down a bit. Other guys have done it differently before me and in the past, but I tend to break things down with the basics first, then add the little intricacies as I go along on each session that I do. So, yeah.
And what would you say is the hardest part of your job?
I would probably say if an incident actually happens, and then trying your very best to make sure nobody, and I've already spoken about it, freezes up and they all get where they need to go. A majority of the time, being first on scene, I end up kind of placing myself as scene commander. So I will then start to throw my voice while I'm doing a job at my team, at other teams, to try and speed up the flow, obviously in a smooth way and keeping an eye on the patient at the same time, and get things sorted out. So it tends to be the hardest because it starts to involve making sure my team doesn't freeze up, making sure other teams are helping each other out at the same time and getting on with the job as well without getting in on my team if that's the case.
Yeah, I can imagine that being really difficult, and I think a lot of the stress that the guys go through kind of ripples back to yourself, obviously, when they come and speak to you and ask for advice and things like that.
Yeah, it does a bit.
And one of the questions I had for you was when shit does hit the fan, essentially, how do you switch off from an isolated event and then getting on with the rest of your day or week, for example?
It's a hard one to answer, actually, because my whole life has been, since the age of 17, very informed, very military orientated. Excuse me. So when it comes to that, I don't think I really have any one way of dealing with it. I do block things out very easily, and I can't say what it is that does that. It's even going to bed at night. As soon as I touch that pillow, even with current situations, as soon as I touch that pillow, I'm out. I don't care what happens. My ears won't care what happens. I just sleep till I get up in the morning. I've always had that training, that ethic, philosophy, whatever it is, to be just direct with the situation, understand its full potentials and what have you, the perspective around it all, and I just get on with it. And at the end of it, I sit back, carry on, cup of tea, whatever it is, typical English thing, and then carry on with life again. I don't get overexcited with these things. I just get on with it, get it out of the way, and then chill. Like it never happened, really. It just,
yeah.
I don't know how to answer that one, really, because
it seems like it comes quite
yeah.
It seems like it comes quite naturally to you, like you say, but especially with your military background and stuff like that. I mean, if you have someone that you are training, let's say they were to come and ask you for maybe some bits of advice or tips and tricks around kind of dissociating from it, what do you sort of tend to tell them?
Again, I mean, that comes into part of my training, I suppose, in some shape or form, by focusing their minds on the particular elements and making sure that the intricate parts, if I see somebody dropping back for a reason or they're holding off of doing a particular process, then I'll talk to that person separately, maybe go over those points. But it's just being direct, being completely honest about everything. Don't mamby-pamby around with any of the processes. Getting on with it. Yeah, it's I don't have one particular way to do it when we've got so many generations of minds and how people think to deal with. I just straight away tell them at the start, it will be, I will be, we get on with. And those that don't tend to just fade away. after a while that really don't find the understanding and the focus is that driver, not just to come do something, get the rescue badge and walk away sort of thing. So that they know that their focus is that driver.
And when someone sort of first walks through the door, especially with someone with your experience, I'm sure you can kind of gauge based on, let's say, sort of personality and character. I mean, what are the kind of key things that you would say when you're looking at someone? If I was going to say this is going to be someone who'd be really good in this role as a rescue, what kind of things would you be looking for?
Now, when it comes to that, I would prefer that people may be a paramedic or they've done something like that in the background, because they may have seen some traumatic element along the way. I like them to be reasonably fit, at least be able to lift 80 to 100 kilos in one go would be a good one. Deadlifting or something like that, because we have to do a lot of lifting. And the actual ethic that they come out with. So if their mind is already starting to focus on that process and start asking questions, I know that they're trying to take it in. Whereas some may just sit back. You don't know whether they're taking it in or not until the point you say, right, your go, get in there. I want to see this. Yeah, I want to see you go through that process. Then if they fail at that sort of thing, they're struggling, then you know that person may not be quite right for the position of looking after the drivers in the cars, because you'll struggle then when it comes to sight. Getting someone out, constantly having to bash that person's mind to sort him out, or get away, I need somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. James, maybe let me ask you this question. Imagine the hypothetical situation, the turn 10 at Yas Marina circuit. We have 3 F1 cars that they crashed together. How the process looks like, we can see it on TV, yellow flags waving, safety car is coming out. How does it look from your perspective?
Okay, so crash happens, race control has it all on screen. They'll do whatever they need to do by race director, whether flags go up, yellows, reds, whatever that reason might be. Okay, but at the same time, they're looking to see for movement, for mechanism of car movement as such when it crashed, to see how serious that may be. And there'll be a CMO in the background, a chief medical officer in the background. So between the CMO and the race director, they'll make the decision to then call a medical unit. Okay? If the crash looks severe enough, maybe something's upside down, or maybe it hit relatively hard, lights are flashing, G lights and things like this, and they can see that, then it'll be immediately call out the rescue. If there's no movement in a car, nobody in the marshal teams or anything like that have had any thumbs up at the side of the road for them to see and to action, or maybe radio calls in to say that there's been a thumbs up and the driver's okay. Again, the possibility of a medical unit will be dispatched straight away. The rescue unit as such is sometimes never always the first person on the crash, depending on the severity of the mechanism in the first place. So if that is quite severe, then medic and rescue will both go at the same time. Once they get on site, we do a lot of things like fending off, making sure no other cars are going to go into any more cars and things like this with the vehicles. We jump out, we grab our kit at the same time, fire extinguishers if we need them, and we go straight to the driver. Now we want to understand from the driver, and it's normally a senior doctor will ask this, how he's feeling. Is there any pains? Is there anything unusual? Yeah, obviously adrenaline is high with these guys as well, so they may not feel everything straight away. And then we'll ask them if they can get out themselves, fine. If they're not saying anything at all, we automatically, rapidly take them out of the car and get them straight onto stretchers and stuff like that. Yeah, if the situation is that there's a lot of fire around, okay, same again, we look for rapidly taking them out, but with suppression from the marshals, maybe our guys with the fire extinguishers, etc., to get them out and then into medical care straight away. Okay, if it's a full controlled extrication, easy enough to do. We get out the equipment. We constantly go into a flow of talking with the driver, slowly taking off helmets, making sure he's still braced, making sure necks are braced, back is then braced, things like this. The seats used to come out, but for this year we won't be taking them out. Okay, so there's a slightly different method of removal, but our primary is to make sure that head through to lower spine is as still as possible. Okay, if they've broken anything, we can strap the hands or something like that to secure limbs and things. And obviously, we've got to deal with the driver, and maybe there's hysterics in some cases, which has happened in the past for a few people I've pulled out of cars. But that's something else to deal with. But that is it, basically. And then once they're out of the car, into the ambulances, the doctors will do their bits, whether they need to administer anything, drugs and stuff like that. Off they go. F1 has a helicopter, so they can always get them straight to medical services for whatever the injury may be as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the safety aspects of what you do, and obviously the technology that evolves over time in these vehicles that we are watching go around. I mean, is there any, let's say, other than the Halo, because I think that's a really, really obvious one. Are there any other sort of safety bits or bits of technology that have come in that you thought that's definitely saved lives?
Well, you've taken the first one out of my mouth there, really, with that Halo. But the Halo was a game changer when that came in. But prior to that, because cars if we go back a little bit, cars in the 80s and 90s were absolutely terrible in terms of how mechanism was. Feet were close to axles. Bodywork was very low at the front. There was always a lot of lower limb injuries and things like that. Death was a very high possibility in those cars. The Halo, for that reason, started coming in. Also, you've seen the hands devices that they put around the necks. Things like that came out of the 90s as well to secure and reduce the movement on C-spine and stuff like that. So the hands is a very good possibility for your list there, but I go with a Halo as being the most remarkable piece of kit, to be honest, on these cars, and it's certainly saved a ton of lives because it is such a rigid structure that it's now part of.
I think we've seen so many incidents where the Halos come into play. Like there was I think Albon at Silverstone potentially first lap. I think there was obviously the Monza incident with Lewis and Max with the wheels on Lewis. You could literally see the tracks on Lewis's helmet. So, and I know Toto Wolff came out and was saying, I was one of the people that were against the Halo when it first came out, and then obviously he's happy that he had it. Why do you think these kind of changes and updates they cause so much uproar as opposed to a lot of people just seeing it from the safety perspective?
Well, when it comes to racing, I mean, I'm just sharing my obvious opinion here is that excuse me, a driver and the car needs to be as light as possible. They don't want to add weight to these cars, especially Formula 1, Formula 2, 3, 4. The Formula cars as a whole, they don't want to add any weight to the car if they can help it. Halo was adding weight. It's made of titaniums and alloys and whatever it is. It's adding weight regardless. So they didn't really want to start adding such a huge form to a frame. Plus, the design of the car has to change because there's already a carbon sort of cell to these cars anyway. But now they have to introduce a slightly different cell, so the prices are going up in terms of production of a vehicle and keeping that cell strong enough to keep hold of the Halo. There are in some cases where a Halo is damaged that it can take on a force. So there's a small twist in the car as such. And if for a rescue guy you then cut into the Halo for any reason at all, it could spring out and attack you back and knock you flat on the floor. So it does take up a lot of force, that Halo. So that force has to be somewhere. Yeah. So all this cost and elements of weight and everything is added just from one thing like a Halo.
The thing that springs to mind for me is, especially in most motorsports or in all motorsports, they say, the driver's safety is the
Yeah.
main and first priority. Do you believe that statement?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, my perspective, my perspective on motorsport is we've got so many regulations now; it's unbelievable. Yeah, we're constantly trying to change stuff to improve stuff. We're trying to fight the modern era of electric and things like this. We're fighting so many things and trying to keep everything in check. Personally, I think make Formula One more interesting again. Go back a few years, get rid of the radio.
Wow.
Make the driver do the driving. Make the driver do the ruling. Yeah, it's put it back on him. So if he does it wrong, it's only a board over on the pit lane. If he doesn't get that message, well, sorry, the points start to come in officially. There's no interruption from a race control. There's no interruption from a director of anybody's big organizations. Yeah, there's no. These things then become a driver's responsibility, as it once used to be. Driver went out, he did his thing. If he broke the speed limit coming in, if he overtook wrongly, whatever it was, sorry, points for. There's no argument down the radio, and you don't get that feedback. The media will also change the way that they react to what happens in these cars, because they can't play on these conversations as much as they want to. So I do feel that a lot of the upgrades, a lot of the rules are unnecessary. We need to step back that little bit. Yes, driver safety is paramount, but the driver also knows he's in a dangerous situation. Regardless, as soon as he takes off from that green light, he's in a dangerous situation. Or red light out. Yeah, he's in a dangerous situation.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's the first time I've heard that about the opinion of going back to no radios. But do you know what? Now I've heard it.
That's the only thing I can ever advise.
That was surprising. Yeah.
Get rid of the radios. Yeah.
Now I've heard it. I could be on board. You might have sold me, James, on that one. But yeah, I mean, one other thing I do want to touch on with you as well, because I know it is something that is a big part of what you do in terms of diversity. Now, obviously, for a lot of people, motorsport seems like a very closed book club. It's quite a hard club to kind of break into. But as we have seen as time's gone on, there's a lot more diversity in terms of racial diversity, in terms of sexual diversity, in terms of men, women. In terms of, first off, in terms of what you do, how have you seen over the years that kind of diversity change and affect what you guys do?
I'd say in the last 4 or 5 years, we've slowly seen more and more females. Excuse me. I don't know about Europe and other teams. I've not seen so many females as such. But the types of guys, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, so long as you can do it, like I say, lift someone and you've got the strength, you've got the ethic to do. Why does it matter? Last year, I had the first female team leader last year and the year before. She does just as good as anybody else. Why does it make any difference? Yeah, so long as that driver is looked after, why does it matter? Yeah, and as a lead, it makes no difference. So long as it's there. If you feel you can do it, then you do it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, physiology changes some of the things we do and don't do. But if you're open and honest with everything that you're doing, then you can alleviate the areas that are struggles. So, yeah, diversity is neither here nor there. So long as a person can do it, especially with rescue anyway, on our side, as long as you can do it, there's no problem being part of the team. And I feel that you're slowly getting into the next bit, and that's how getting into this becomes a difficult thing as well. Is in rescue, as such, getting into it is simply just involving yourself. In the UAE, we love to see people involving themselves with motorsport as much as possible. It's been my advantage since 2011. I've constantly been doing this rescue. The rescue has turned. I'm an instructor now at the track. I have a race license myself. I've got all these things from just being involved. Yeah, showing that you want to be, showing that it's something you're full on interested in, and it slowly gets you into place. It doesn't take 5 minutes, but it takes a couple of years at least to start getting any benefit from it. But the more you involve yourself in motorsport, no matter who, what you are, the more likely you are to get slowly up the ranks, or someone sees you and you end up in race control, or someone sees you and you become an intervention marshal, or you get the rescue or something like that.
As a young viewer who's watched the We Racing podcast and thought, you know what, I want to be just like James, how do what sort of advice would you give them? Where would you say to start? What would be their sort of starting point, sort of entry into that safety part of motorsport?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a direct line as such to someone that's in a rescue team or a rescue unit, if it's a paid for unit or something like that, then speak to them. They'll give you the idea of what it is they need from you to get into that unit. Otherwise, involve yourself with marshal groups. UK's got one, we've got one. Pretty much every country has a marshal group. And by involving yourself in those marshal groups, it's a good place for networking, good place for finding out who is what and where, and you then eventually start to find the when you can get involved in something else. I think half my team have come from marshals. Originally, I was a lucky one. I went straight into rescue. I've got a couple, obviously, exactly the same. But half the team have come from marshals because they've just taken that next step. And right, I'd like to go to rescue. I know who he is now. I'll go and speak to him. So they come to me. I place them in the team. I see how they are in the training, and then we go from there, sort of thing. So yeah, just involving yourself. Like I said last, is get to these marshal groups. Get signing on for things, get yourself networking. Yeah, even come to your website, look. Yeah.
There we go, for sure. Come on, check the YouTube, check the social
media website, get looking on LinkedIn for Matt or whatever. Yeah, go for it.
There we go, guys. That's a shameless plug right now. Make sure that you are following the YouTube, the Instagram, TikTok as well, guys.
Yeah, get on We Racing.
That's it. We_racing.
So I can expect a ton of messages the day after publication, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's it now. You're sorted. Where do I go? It was just James.
James, I'm just sending a link to you so you can answer those questions.
No problem at all. No problem.
Excellent, guys. I mean, just coming back over to Formula One for a little bit.
Yeah.
Your personal opinion on who's going to win the championship this year?
Well, it's a tough one, isn't it, with these cars now? I think Hamilton has a possibility. Now, I say this because I don't support one driver alone.
Okay.
I'm one of these generalists. I look at the whole sport because I enjoy the whole sport. So I'm not really on one driver, but I do think Hamilton has the possibility. Kimi from Mercedes, maybe a first or second. Then I don't think McLaren are going to grab anything this year. Max may recoup second half of the year. Third place in it.
We've seen it last year. Max done really well on the second part.
Yeah, because you know what Red Bull are like.
Yeah,
snatching it, or the idea. How do we make that upside down wing? Yeah, I want to get one of those. Yeah. You know what they're like. They're very quick on the engineering uptake. Although they haven't got the same people in the background as they did last year, but I still think that possibility is there. There's a trait that runs through Red Bull anyway for that.
Yeah, I mean, also I said it's hard to write. Your instant thought when I heard Max is, but then you think it's hard to write him off, isn't it? I'm surprised you didn't mention George.
No, I think George will be just sat back. I think Kimi is going to jump up in front.
That will cause the massive fire at Mercedes.
I'm probably being slandered right now by a lot of people.
Yeah.
No, I do think Kimi's, he's going to be a young driver of the year type this year.
Yeah, I think if it's not going to be him, and I think it's going to be hard for it not to be him because Mercedes have what looks like the car at the minute. But Isaac Hadjar, I know he hasn't had the best start, but I have a really good feeling about his performance this year. Maybe not necessarily to win anything, but I think he's definitely going to have a good performance this year, of a feeling.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're all going to be close. You've got Hamilton, Kimi, Max, George, Leclerc. I think the other teams are going to drop back for. I think Aston are going to have engineering problems with all their new setups and God knows what. McLaren were just lucky last year that they had a very good team ethic going. You know, 2 people in the standings is a good team role, but this year I think they're going to struggle along already.
Yeah.
I
think you can see that they're not quite up to scratch. I mean, not last year, before they didn't have a great start to the year.
No, yeah, just watching them in Spain, for example, is you're like, not sure they've got it this year.
Yeah, I don't feel so. Obviously, they've got one of the Mercedes engines in, which you would think they would have been able to sort of look better at the start of the season at the very least, and they have done. But I mean, I feel bad for Alonso at the moment. If I've got to be honest, I saw the onboard of the steering wheel. Have you seen it? It's just
no, I haven't. No,
he just had to let it go on the straights because the vibrations were so severe that he was taking off his hands off the steering wheel completely just to move the fingers a bit.
Oh, there you go. I just said I think Aston are going to struggle with their engineering problem.
Yeah.
I mean, engines are neither here nor there as such. Saying that, it's all down to the bodywork, the aerodynamics, and can they keep the speed in the engine with the aerodynamics working at the same time. But we'll see.
As you said, the last few episodes, to be fair, with it being new regulations early in the season, we're expecting to see everything sort of all over the place and it start to level out as the time goes on. But I have to say, I know that I was a bit critical of it at the very start, especially in pre-season, but I do like this kind of new racing. I do think I like watching overtakes. I like watching battles, and I think that's starting to come back.
Yes and no. I mean, Mercedes have done very well with trying to get that last element of power out of the unit, haven't they? Just before the corners on the longer straights and things, just that extra little bit, which is keeping them on the go at the moment. But I don't know. I mean, what I hope it does, and this is where I think Max may stay somewhere in the background, is what I hope it does is that the drivers start to understand the car better as the season goes on, and they start to release in certain places to hold on to a bit of power at certain points, whether or not it's just to sit there and wait. You know what I mean? It's just holding on to that so it doesn't all completely deplete from the car. Mercedes have found a little bit extra somewhere. The others will find it eventually, but it's there, and I think it needs to balance with the drivers and how they think about where that's going to drop out. Obviously, it's a fast game, doing 330 at top end half the time, but
yeah, I mean, we saw it a lot in China, especially with the Mercedes-Ferrari battle, when they're showing the onboards of the batteries depleting, and you go down the back straight behind, and then they overtake, and then by the time you get to the next straight on the final straight, you've got a bit more power to come back around. So I definitely agree with what you're saying, that as the drivers start to get a little bit more clever and understand how they're going to use that extra bit of boost, you're not going to. It's going to prevent them playing that cat and mouse, because George having to play that cat and mouse cost him any chance of catching up to first. So if they can kind of just tweak how to do that, I think they'll definitely get a lot better result.
Them, they'll find something. If they don't tweak the engine and find what Mercedes have found, if they don't do the tweak there, the drivers between them and the guys behind the fence, they'll find areas on the track in their practice laps to say, right, just step off here, or just squeeze there, or just whatever, to find that extra bit of power in the car. You'll become needs a smart driver, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Find these little intricacies in these new ways. Yeah.
James, before we will go to the end of the episode, obviously, because you are the chief rescue in Abu Dhabi track, you've seen many cars and many different series watching them from the side track.
Yeah.
What is your favorite one to watch from the sides? Maybe except Formula One, if that's your answer.
I actually do like watching the Le Mans cars and the GT. So we have a series, Asian Le Mans. You've most likely heard of it. I enjoy that race. I see a lot more action, a lot more rubbing. It's like going back to Thruxton or something and watching the Toka races or something like that. There's a lot more going on. Yeah. GT cars trying to outrace LMPs. It's, on certain corners. Abu Dhabi's an off-camber track as well in most corners. So if you haven't got the good aero, you tend to find yourself sliding out on those sort of things. But it's an active race. I like that race. That said, also, it's the one race I would love to involve my own personal self in. I love the team ethic that comes with a Le Mans racing team. Yeah, the fact that they're in, they're out, the engineers, the mechanics, everything is working solidly as a team. Yeah, really very, 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 very close, because you're dealing with 2 drivers, 3 drivers, whatever the hour limit is on the endurance. And I would love to be part of that, especially driving those cars. Formula One, maybe not so much, but LMP, yeah, throw me in an LMP. Anyone out there got a spare seat? I'll take it. Yeah.
Also, from the fans' perspective, the Le Mans cars and like even European series or Asian series, they're much closer to the fans. Like I've been in Silverstone last year, and you could literally just walk into the garage and see what they do.
Yeah, they're a bit more open in that perspective, but then Formula One has got its own agenda as such, isn't it? There's only so many media, there's only so many, because it just piles up otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, even us, we're restricted. We can't wear any advertising if it's not part of that environment. So it's whereas LMP, it's a little bit more laid back. The drivers are a little bit more open with you as well. Come and have a look at my car. Yeah, go for it. It's a good setup for these Le Mans series cars.
Every guest we've had on so far, when we've asked them what's their favorite series of racing, I'm pretty sure every single one of them has mentioned Le Mans.
Le Mans, yeah,
literally Le Mans
is just the best. I mean, even at work, on my desk, I have my favorite car is a Ferrari 499, sat there on my desk.
The red one or the yellow one?
The red one with the 51.
Excellent. Well, James, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and I'm so happy.
Pleasure being here. Yeah, pleasure being here. Yeah.
Hope you've enjoyed yourself. But guys, that's the end of the episode this week. As always, don't forget to don't forget to follow us as well, subscribe on all of our social medias, and we'll see you again next week. In a bit, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.